The raven flew swiftly from King's Landing, carrying Robert Baratheon's damning decree. Eddard Stark, Warden of the North, was a traitor. The North answered with steel. This is, what if Ned Stark went to war against King Robert? Alliances are forged. Winterfell became a storm of activity.
All the children will be going below when the time comes. But both my brothers were soldiers. I want to fight too.
Smiths worked day and night as lords arrived with banners held high. The Karstarks rode from Carhold, grim and determined. The Boltons marched from the Dreadfort, their flayed man sigil a chilling promise of loyalty. And the Manderleys brought ships and men, their banners rippling in the icy winds. The great hall of Winterfell roared with pledges of fealty as Ned Stark, unbent and resolute, spoke of the North standing united. "To war then," Ned declared, his voice echoing like thunder. The Greyjoys received Ned's envoys at Pike. Autonomy and freedom of the seas were promised, and the Kraken stirred, its eye turning towards the Lannister fleet. At Riverrun and the Eyrie, ravens arrived with requests for neutrality, Ned's olive branch weighed down by the promise of ruin if ignored. In the heart of Winterfell, Jon Snow stood at his father's side, silent but watchful. The Northern lords began to whisper of him. The Stark blood runs strong in the boy, a symbol, a shadow of hope. South of the Neck, war drums pounded. Stannis Baratheon rallied the royal fleet at Dragonstone, black sails blotting the horizon. Tywin Lannister's banners drenched the Westerlands gold and crimson as his armies thundered east, their purpose clear: sever the North's lifeline before Winterfell could seal its gates. The realm trembled as war took shape. Axes were sharpened, alliances tested, and ravens flew to every corner of Westeros. The North stood ready, but winter was coming, and so were the roar and the storm.
Winter is coming.
Battle at the Neck. The Neck was death to armies, yet Tywin Lannister, ever the master strategist, led his men northward with cold determination. Nearly 70,000 strong, the royal host crawled through the swamps, banners of Lannister crimson and Baratheon gold drowning in mist and muck. Hidden archers struck from the reeds, their arrows swift and merciless. Wooden causeways buckled under weight, and quicksand swallowed screaming men whole. Tywin did not waver. His commanders burned pathways through the marshes, sacrificing hundreds to gain inches. "No land holds against me," he declared.
Have you ever lost before?
Do you think I'd be in my position if I'd lost a war?
Slowly, painfully, the South pushed forward, the next resistance whittling their forces to bloody ruin. Further south, Robert Baratheon summoned reinforcements to Riverrun and the Twins. Stannis Baratheon's fleet sealed the Bight, attempting to choke White Harbour, while the Redwyne fleet set sail for Seaguard. But war's tides turned quickly. The Ironborn struck westward, burning and scattering the Redwyne ships, while Manderley's defenders harassed Stannis' blockade, keeping vital supply lines open. At Winterfell, Ned Stark held court with Jon Snow at his side. Jon listened carefully to his father's counsel as reports came in. "The Neck bleeds them," Ned said, studying the maps. "Tywin is pushing through, but the cost is high." Jon watched the northern lords, Karstark, Bolton, Hornwood, deliberate, sensing the weight of history in their voices. He clenched his fists, wishing to fight alongside his brother. "War will reach us soon," Ned told him. "Watch, Jon. Learn. There will come a time for your sword. Unaware of what lay ahead, Tywin's army at last emerged from the mists. Before them rose Moat Cailin, the gateway to the north, its towers sharp as broken teeth against the grey sky. It was a fortress of legends, ancient and impenetrable. After the Red Keep, it would become the most fortified stronghold in Westeros, but even now its walls promised death to any invader. Tywin's men cheered until they saw the banners. Wolves. Robb Stark stood atop the central tower, clad in his father's armour, his hair damp with the mist. Beside him stood Theon Greyjoy, the Kraken banner snapping at his back. Their army was dug in, trenches carved deep and archers poised like ghosts along the walls. "They expect an open field," Theon said with a smirk. Robb's eyes never left the enemy's ranks. Then let them learn why the north is not to be crossed. The Lannisters struck at dawn. Siege engines were dragged through the mud, their stones shattering uselessly against Moat Cailin's ancient walls. Arrows rained down from above, pinning men to the earth. Every advance was answered with fire, oil, and sharpened steel. Tywin ordered wave after wave, each assault breaking like water on rock. Yet the southern army would not stop. The north watched as men clawed and burned and died below them. Supplies dwindled. Food grew scarce, and the chill of the north bit deep into southern bones. Horses were slaughtered for meat, and campfires could not warm the hollow faces of starving men. Tywin stood firm, but even he saw the truth. The neck had broken his army long before they reached Moat Cailin. A raven reached Ned Stark on the 6th day. "The south falters," he told Jon, who stood at his side. "Winter comes for all men, even lions." On the 7th day, Robb struck. The gates of Moat Cailin opened, and northern riders poured forth, steel flashing in the early light. Theon led the charge, Greyjoy men behind him. The Lannister camp descended into chaos. Men who had endured so much broke at last, scattering into the marshes, where the reeds picked them off one by one. Tywin Lannister ordered retreat. His golden banners fell limp, trampled in the mud as his army dragged itself south, shattered and starving. From the battlements, Robb Stark watched them go, the young wolf victorious in his first true test of war. At Winterfell, Ned received word of the victory with quiet gravity. He looked to Jon Snow, who stood silent at his side. "There is no glory in this," Ned said. "Only the duty to protect our home and our people. Robert will understand that. One day." Jon looked north, where snowflakes had begun to drift from the sky. Winter had come, and the wolves had endured. Shattered crown. The neck had broken Robert Baratheon's war machine. His forces, battered and starving, sought refuge in the Vale and Riverrun. But when they arrived, the gates were closed. The Arryns and Tullys, wary of the North's growing power, but unwilling to risk devastation, refused entry to the retreating southern armies. Trapped and desperate, Robert's men were hunted across the riverlands. Robb Stark's forces struck with precision, using the terrain to ambush stragglers and disrupt supply lines. The wolves of the north were relentless, and Tywin Lannister, though still defiant, was forced into a slow retreat. In Winterfell, Ned Stark faced a battle of a different kind. News had spread, whispered in shadowy corners, and carried on swift ravens. Jon Snow was no bastard, but Aegon Targaryen, the rightful heir to the Iron Throne.
My name. My real name is Aegon Targaryen.
The revelation rippled across Westeros, altering alliances and igniting tensions. In dawn, Oberyn Martell received the Raven with barely contained fury. Before Robert's envoy could even present terms, Oberyn spoke, his voice cold and sharp as steel. "You want the loyalty of Dawn? Then bring me the head of Tywin Lannister, the butcher who ordered my sister's death, and Gregor Clegane, the beast who raped her. Deliver them to me on a silver platter, and Dawn will ride for your crown." The envoy paled as Oberyn leaned closer. "Until then, tell your false king that Dawn does not forget, and we do not forgive."
They butchered those children, my nephew and niece, carved them up and wrapped them in Lannister cloaks.
And what about what I want? Justice for my sister and her children.
In the Reach, Olenna Tyrell studied the news with calculating interest. As her son, Mace, blustered about honour and alliances, Olenna dismissed him with a wave of her hand. "Honour is a fool's prize, Mace. The crown is crumbling, and we will not be caught beneath its ruins." When the Raven flew north, her terms were clear. A marriage alliance between Margaery Tyrell and Aegon Targaryen would solidify the Tyrells' position and reshape the balance of power. The boy is young, but with Lord Stark guiding him, he is no fool, Olenna mused to her handmaidens. "And when the dust settles, it will be our rose that flourishes in the ashes." For Jon, now Aegon, the truth was both a weapon and a burden. In the eyes of some, he was still a bastard, unworthy of a crown. To others, he was the last hope for Westeros. As the North rallied behind his name, Aegon realised that victory would not only demand steel, but the ability to wield a legacy larger than himself. The realm braced for the storm to come. A new throne. After 2 years of brutal conflict, Ned Stark and Robert Baratheon faced each other at last. Ned's gait was uneven, his hand resting heavily on the pommel of his sword as he approached, a black patch covering his left eye. Robert, still broad and imposing despite the wear of battle, looked at him with a mixture of fury and bitter disappointment. "All this, Ned," Robert growled, his voice shaking with anger. "For a bastard, for the son of the man who stole my Lyanna."
She belonged with me.
In my dreams, I kill him every night.
Ned held his ground, his voice low but steady. "You think I wanted this, Robert? I didn't. I was willing to kneel, to beg for his life, but I would have burned your kingdom to ash before letting harm come to the only thing my sister left behind."
You have to protect him. Promise me, Ned.
Robert's jaw tightened, his fists clenched at his sides. For a long moment, neither spoke, the silence heavy with unspoken pain. At last, Robert exhaled sharply and turned away. "You've changed, Ned," he said, his voice quieter now, almost sad. "And so have I." "War changes us all," Ned replied, his gaze unwavering. "But some things, like blood, don't change. Aegon is her son. That will never change, whether you accept it or not." Neither man could deny the truth. The South was fractured, and the North had proven unyielding. A ceasefire was brokered. Robert Baratheon would remain king in the South, ruling the Stormlands, the Westerlands, and the Crownlands. In the North, a new order emerged. Jon Snow, now Aegon Targaryen, was crowned king in the North and the Reach.
He is the White Wolf, the king in the north.
His legitimacy secured by his lineage and his marriage to Margaery Tyrell. The union between Aegon and Margaery symbolised hope and stability for a realm weary of war. While the Tyrells brought resources and influence, it was the North's resilience and Aegon's growing legend that solidified their rule. The sight of wolves and roses flying side by side served as a promise. Unity forged in fire and tempered by loyalty. In Winterfell, a throne unlike any other was forged, a testament to the North's strength and history. The Black Throne, carved from weirwood and adorned with obsidian accents, reflected the legacy of the Starks and the resilience of their land. Upon that throne sat Jon Snow, a man born in shadow but crowned in light. His journey from bastard to king would be sung by bards for generations. If you enjoyed this story, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear what other what-if scenarios you'd like us to explore next. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into the history and alternate possibilities of Westeros.
The North remembers. We know no king, but the king in the North, his name is Stark. I don't care if he's a bastard. Ned Stark's blood runs through his veins. He's my king, from this day until his last day.
Jon Snow avenged the Red Wedding. He is the White Wolf. The King in the North!